All right, welcome to the show. Jason Bible, Robert Orfino, with a special guest.
Hey, guys.
One of our out-of-state investors.
Here in the state.
Yes,
Did you guys feel your property taxes collectively go up when we have somebody from California come in? They're like coming in to buy everything.
Well, once I saw the gas prices getting off the plane, I was having to make the move.
What were you saying? It's $6-7 a gallon? What are you at
I filled
over there?
my truck up this week. Crappiest gas at a crappy gas station, and it was $6.20.
And we're right at $3, I think, for
3.25.
3.25.
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
Sunshine tax. That's what Rob calls it.
Yep. Happy to pay it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the difference. Your skin didn't melt off when you were filling up your tank in California.
Yes.
That is true. I was, in fact, I was in Malibu looking at the ocean.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. They're like, oh my gosh, the
Not a
most
bad
beautiful,
family.
most beautiful place in the world. This is terrible.
Hey, so today we are going to be talking about out-of-state investing. So if you're not here in Texas, you got to come track us down, right? So we're going to be in LA. We'll be doing a whole week's worth of events out there starting October 17th and 18th, going all the way out to the 21st and 22nd. So we'll be there. We're going to be at the Sizzler.
At the Sizzler.
At the beer place.
Brew Bros in North Hollywood.
And then we're going to do an actual meetup, sit-down meetup. And then we have our big 2-day event out there. So now, if you're out in Southern California, or if you're in Vegas, or if you're in Phoenix, I'd highly recommend you get to LA for our event, because we're going to be talking about investing in Texas, and we can start why you want to. So let's just kind of go through why you want to invest in Texas. And number one, Jason, you always cover this, is jobs.
A lot of jobs here. But
Yeah.
Rob, I'm not investing in jobs. I'm investing in real estate.
That is true.
But by the fact that you're investing in real estate, you are investing
jobs.
in jobs.
Now, how many jobs? Give us that ratio that you like to share.
So 2 to 1. For every 2 jobs created, 1 house is bought. So all you have to do is look, okay, where is the next place is going to have all this appreciation, where values are going up, rents are going up? It's real simple. Where are the jobs being created?
Yep.
Every 2 jobs created, 1 house is bought.
All right. Stay on, Jason. Jason, talk to us about having a landlord-friendly state.
It's really important, and this is the most important piece. When they don't pay, they don't stay. So in a lot of other states, Florida being one too. So people tell me like, oh, you want to invest in Florida? It's a red state. I'm like, not when it comes to landlords, it doesn't. So if you, let's say Southern California, let me tell this fun little story. I'm at the Sizzler.
Oh, Sizzler.
How do you pronounce it, Casey?
It's
How do you-
Sizzler. And by the way, guys, my name is Casey Everhart. Here,
Yeah, you didn't introduce
I'm gonna corral these guys for the next few minutes. So it's pronounced Sizzler.
Sizzler. This place is so nice. There are urban campers
Sure.
parked out in
In
the
the
parking
parking
lot.
lot, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, the truck's totally getting broken into when we get here. Anyway, so one of the first times I was at the Sizzler, I ran into what's called a landlord advocate.
Right.
And I was
Crazy.
like, and I'm sitting there talking with this gal. I'm like, what is a landlord advocate? She's like, well, we're a law firm and we, work with landlords. I'm like, okay, what do I need an advocate for? I don't understand. Well, in Southern California, actually in all California, most prevalent Southern California, if a tenant doesn't leave voluntarily, there's a whole lot of stuff you've got to go through, and it may take forever for a landlord to get them out. So I said, well, what do you really do? She goes, we just, give them a check and tell them to get out of the house. Like, that's basically what it comes down to. I was like, oh no, we don't have that here in Texas.
No.
So it's very interesting. So landlord state, friendly state, Texas versus, let's say, California. And that's one of the things that you're looking for. Got to be in a landlord friendly state, because if tenant's not paying, they need to leave.
Yeah.
The other thing that we like for certain is appreciation.
Yes.
So there are a lot of places in this country where we can find a very affordable rental property, meaning, hey, I'm going to get in for maybe $40,000, $50,000. However, they're typically in markets that are not appreciating as much as Texas. And so we're always looking for that rule of 72. We're looking for a minimum 7% appreciation a year, which means in a decade, I double my value of the property. And if I can buy it with some equity in, I can cut that down to 5 to 7 years. So let's talk about the housing classes that we buy, Jason, because they're not 3,200 square foot houses on a cul-de-sac that we're
on the lake.
No, on the lake.
That
sure.
That some junior VP is and his family going to stay out for 5 years. That's not really the demographic. It's really the working class, and it's workforce housing is what we typically call it. We have some new Mastermind folks, and they're going out looking at some houses, and they're like, Jason, we wouldn't live in this neighborhood. I'm like, right, but you're not renters either.
Right.
So
you own $1 million house in the country. That's correct. You're not going to live in this house.
You're not moving here. Yeah. So there's a lot of areas in town that, they've got what I like to call legacy rentals. Can you find rental properties in Westview, River Oaks? Absolutely. Yeah. They're not going to cash flow at all.
No.
But the families probably own that home forever. They own it free and clear. That's not the type of investing you do. The type of investing you're doing is you're going in and buying that $200,000 house that rents for $1,800 to $2,200 a month. You're putting 20% down and doing the deal. So those are not the nicest areas of town.
No, but in a lot of cases that we're not looking for the worst area of town. We're looking for the oil industry.
Yeah.
Right. We're surrounding ourselves with so we are, in those marketplaces that are going to always have jobs. Right. Period. So yeah, and you'll be able to get into a property for $40,000, maybe as high as 70. I think you're less than 40 out of pocket for the duplex you're buying. So he's buying a duplex. Less than $40,000 out of pocket. Pretty amazing, right? We see rent increases in this state, right? So this is a dynamic rental numbers. They don't go up evenly. It's a step up, plateau, step up, plateau. But on average, we see about 4% annualized a year. And that's what is, again, super sexy for us as a landlord. We're making sure, hey, we're always going to get about a 4%, 5% raise. Low entry point, like we talked about. Again, you're buying a duplex for under $40,000 out of pocket, and then we absolutely still hit the 1% rule for you old timers out there, or maybe you guys don't understand it. If my house, I'm all in at $100,000, my 1% rule is I need to be able to charge 1% of the total cost of the house per month. So I need to have rent to be at $1,000. If it's $100,000, it's just a rule of thumb. There's a whole bunch of other things that go into it. But, those are the reasons that we are buying here in Texas. One, jobs. Let's review. So let me give you the good edit for you. So here are the reasons that we buy in Texas and why you need to get out here as quickly as possible. One, jobs. It's a job juggernaut. Just jobs being created all over Texas. Two, it's a landlord-friendly state. I like to say, if you don't pay, you don't stay. So evictions process usually happens less than 30 days. We are seeing, on average, the low side, about 7% appreciation a year. That means we're doubling the value of the property in less than a decade. We're seeing about 3 to 5% in rent increases a year, which is good for us. We are seeing the 1% rule, right? The landlord rule, 1%. And we're able to get into these properties for $40,000, $50,000, maybe $70,000. You want to go crazy and get a triplex, you might have to put $90,000 down. These are great deals that are sitting here. They're everyday deals. And you need to go check out our website, Mrtxrei, for the online event or the event in Southern California. We'll see you there. Okay, there. I just did a commercial.
In-show commercial.
I love that. One of the things I was sitting here taking some notes, Rob, and I want to go back to something that I heard in a previous show that you guys did. And it was really one of the things that, for me, really secured my interest in coming in from an out-of-state investor perspective. And It was something that I think Jason said on one of the shows where, I live in Southern California. I love it there. I do pay a lot in taxes, but I'm not sweating every day. But one thing that you said, Jason, that I think leads into the appreciation and why I think it's so valuable to have a visual on this is that there's essentially a 747 worth of people moving, like it's loading up at LAX, coming to Houston, dropping off, going back empty, loading up, coming back just daily. That along with that along with, the price of a U-Haul, when you bring a U-Haul from LA to Houston, for example, or San Fran into Houston, it's quite expensive. Getting a U-Haul from Houston going back to LA, you pretty much get a gift card as you take it back.
Yeah, please just take this thing over.
Can you just talk a tiny bit about that and how that plays into both the jobs market as well as the appreciation? How does that cause?
Sure. So there's two more things to this. One is immigration. So Texas is it's getting younger, and that is immigration coming from multiple states and other countries. But they're also making babies here. So the second part of that is household formation. And that's a real driver. I mean, let's be honest. We all own houses, right? If I sell my house and buy another house, what is the net change? It's zero, right? What you really need are new entrants into the housing market that drives values. So it's something like 80 to 90% of homeowners will always be homeowners, literally until they have to move into the home or the day they die, right? No one sells a house to move into an apartment. That's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So if you're already a homeowner, you're just trading up, trading sideways, buying a vacation home, moving somewhere else. The difference down here is because we're a younger population, folks they're going into that first house, second house. They're moving from California and paying cash for stuff down. I mean, Rob, how many of your neighbors are from out of state?
Yeah, 50% of them.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. So we used to do actually, we're talking about earlier today. We used to do this really big event over at the RCC. Be 1,000 people there. And I'd had everybody raise their hand and say, how many of y'all were born in Texas? Raise their hand. I'd say, how many of you guys have been here less than 5 years? Half the room would raise their hands.
Really?
And then I'd ask the question, what's everybody doing here? What are you? And I'd say like this, what are you foreigners doing here? And everybody laughs, ha, ha, ha. They kind of hear that all the time. But it's real simple. They ain't here for the weather. Houston's a cool city, but it ain't the prettiest city, right? No. They ain't here for our beaches.
Not here for the views.
Not here for the views.
No.
Might be here for the food. Food's pretty decent here.
Yeah,
good food town, but they're here for money. That's how what it comes down to all day long. Cash.
Yeah, I call Houston the world's largest work camp.
Yeah,
it's the home of disposable income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if the people weren't so great here, you wouldn't live here. I don't think people actually, a lot of Texas is like that. This is a brutal state to live in.
It's rough.
Just the weather.
Yes.
It's a brutal state to live in, but everybody's here for work. It's pretty simple. It's set up in such a way that your money goes further and you get paid well when you're here.
Yeah. So we're super happy with 6 years now coming to Texas. Smartest thing I ever did in my life.
I remember those. I remember sitting down with you. I remember you saying, hey, just after the hurricane.
Yep.
I remember sitting in a restaurant with you and you saying, hey, you know what?
Corky's
restaurant.
Oh, that's right.
It's now boarded up, vacant.
Oh, are
but
you serious?
Yeah, but it was such a great space. I mean, I can remember some of our early day meetings there.
The green Formica tables.
Exactly. You can see it in such films as Nightmare on Elm Street Part 39 or whatever the latest one is. Yeah. They actually took the money from shooting there and put that into the reno, which is why it was nice. And then they closed it up. But one of the things you said, Rob, was that there are so many people there whose homes were destroyed out of the hurricane.
Yep.
It creates a massive opportunity because those jobs really won't leave, but those people will need houses.
That's correct. That's what happened.
And really moving down here. And so it's been fantastic to watch you guys just come in and really take on a lot of those. I mean, let's make an argument that you've made the city prettier.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
No,
our stuff is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have the Section 8 inspector walk through our properties in some of the cities that we're in, and he's like, man, I'd live here.
Yeah. So explain what Section 8 is and why it's a
so
valuable tool.
we love Section 8 here in Texas. Again, it's a very landlord-friendly state. You're going to be able to work with the local county government or the local city government and go through affordable housing with them. They pay a very decent rate. They'll pay market or sometimes above market. And you just can't be a slumlord, right? You have to, if you're a respectable landlord, then you'll do Section 8, right? It's the folks that, are a little slippery that will have problems with Section 8. Now, people always ask me, well, what about the tenants? What about the people living there? There is absolutely no difference between a good tenant and a bad tenant for Section 8 or for any other tenant. It's the same percentage, and it's roughly 80-20, right? Doesn't matter if they're on Section 8 or they're not on Section 8. About 20% of the tenants are going to be a little rough when they leave. 80% are going to be great. It's the same thing. So we love Section 8. money gets deposited, 1201, money's there, and we're on first of the month, and we're good to go.
And is there it seems to me, having the limited experience I have with that it's kind of the best of the both worlds, because you've got a tenant that's in need of some assistance,
Sure.
and also because they're in need of assistance and they know they lose it if they are
They
part
don't want
of
to
that,
lose a voucher. Nobody wants to lose
it.
it. Nope.
There's actually an extra incentive to not only help somebody
Sure.
else, but at the same time also decrease the risk of it.
Yeah,
Going
for
back.
certain. Again, they don't want to lose the voucher, right? They're getting subsidized housing. That's really important. This is, let's be honest, this is not a state that does a lot of public services compared to other states, right? So
A little different than Southern California.
A little different than Virginia, right, and other places. But for certain, Section 8 is here, and in certain places that we're at, there's a waiting list for properties. So the tenants are good, as good, if not better, than the folks that don't have Section 8. So we're happy to work with those offices for affordable housing and go through. And again, if you run a good property, if it's clean, if it's safe, it's presentable, and ours is absolutely all three of those, you're not going to have any problem passing the inspection, and then you're going to have your tenants for a good amount of years.
Rob, I would almost argue that unless you've renovated your house in the last 10 or 15 years, our Section 8 rentals are probably better than the house you live in.
For most people, yeah.
For most people,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's just because I like to make sure that everything is covered here. So voucher is the government is helping these folks. So
it's not even a voucher anymore. It's just they're in the system, and it's a direct deposit.
And so they send out so you apply to Section 8.
Yep.
As a landlord, they send a guy or gal out to come make sure you're not running.
Nope, you don't apply. You just put it out as a listing. Section 8 is available, and they'll come, and then they'll say, I like this house. They'll come and look like any other tenant. I like the house. Let's go ahead and rent it. And they'll say, okay, we got to do the Section 8 inspection. We're like, that's fine.
And then
so the voucher, the voucher means they are approved by Section 8. So not anybody can just get it, right? There's an approval process for benefits and all that stuff. So we always ask for, hey, voucher in hand, even though it's never really in hand, right? Yeah, vouchers in hand when they come to see us, and then it's like, okay, you're ready to go.
And then Section 8 will actually send somebody out to verify that you've got a safe place that's presentable.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's a whole separate inspection criteria.
Little point.
And it's got to have fire extinguishers and peepholes at doors and all that. Windows that open.
Windows that open. Hey,
what's funny is when you look down the Section 8 list, I look at it and go, "There's nothing unreasonable here.
Nothing.
Like this is all complete." So whenever I hear investors like, "Man, we just have a hard time passing our Section 8 inspection," I'm like, "What kind of dumpy property do you own, dude?" Like it's the bar ain't real high for Section 8. So.
Well, I think it's, and I'll just say this from an outsider investor coming in. One of the reasons why, if I look at the gurus, and Jason, I know you love being called a guru. So when I got the guru over here to the left, there's a lot of guys out there that are talking about investing in real estate and how to do it and all of this jazz. I think for me personally, just as a guy who, I like to play above board. One of the reasons why I joined the Mastermind and why I love working with you guys is that you know this stuff. And I think one of the things that people sometimes miss in working with people is like, why are you working with someone? And the reason just that I choose to work with you guys and follow what you say and kind of give a wide berth in knowing that is understanding how the Section 8, understanding what that checklist looks like.
Yeah, of course.
And I think there's a lot of people that will say, hey, come invest with me. And then they don't have time under their belt and the experiences to be able to say, hey, we know this isn't going to pass. Let's fix it to make it actual pass, And I think I got that from you, quite honestly, when we went to the cash. And if you guys haven't followed the story of the cash, it's one of my favorite stories of you guys.
We still own the cash.
I love it. I remember we went down to this. There were several little, I don't know, cabins, I guess we'll call
13
them.
cottages.
13 cottages. And it was what I'll put in the category of sketch adjacent.
Yeah. The neighborhood around it's a little rough.
Right. But I remember walking those, and it was actually, Rob, one of your and I's conversations. I remember being looking at the floor, and I asked a question about the floor and the wall because they don't look the same as our housing in SoCal. And you were like, well, listen, it's sandy here and it shifts. And so the place needs, And it just struck me that when people join a real estate mastermind, or they join an investment club, or they join people to work with, it's really up to us as investors to know that. However, recognizing that the people that you're working with or investing with or that are showing you stuff know all the nuances is the value proposition for just being around a bunch of yahoos.
I think it's important to recognize for us, Jason and I, we actually are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. And we're not teaching out of a book, right? This isn't just a website we send you to and take your money. We're actually doing it. So we know the best HVAC guy. We know the guy who's going to fix the foundation. We know the deals that are coming down on the line. We've got a lot of off-market deals that come to us. So we actually work the marketplace. And for those of you in California, and again, let me give you the plug.
Like me.
We're going to be out in California on October 21st and 22nd. 21st and 22nd. We're going to be down near the LAX. Make sure you come out. It's a 2-day event. We're only seating 40. And we will sell it out. We will sell out. So make sure you get there. You can go to mrtxrei.com, mrtxrei.com to make sure you get there. Now, if you're interested in just moving forward, having a conversation about the mastermind, and there is a charge, but I want you to understand who's going to qualify for the mastermind. One, you have to have income. We don't teach the hope and the prayer type of real estate stuff. You actually have to make money because real estate does cost money. Two, you're going to have a decent FICO. You're going to have to qualify for good mortgages. And three, you're going to need capital to deploy. Now, if you have all those three and you're just like, okay, hey, I'm ready. I've been meaning to get to Texas. I want to do this. You're going to text the word mastermind to 281-401-9008. Text mastermind to 281-401-9008. And we'll get on the phone and we'll talk about it. And if we don't see you at the 2-day and you're ready to move on it, let's just do that. If you want to come out to the 2-day, go to mrtxrei.com. Now, the reason I'm mentioning Southern California is we're going out there. Last time I was out there, and I lived there for 10 years, the flavor of the week back again was Detroit. Guy sitting there is like, hey, man, you could buy a property in Detroit for $25,000 and blah, blah, it's going to be worth $125,000. I'm like, yes, I get it. But it's not going to hit this rule. It's not a landlord-friendly state, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or city. That's not a good place to be. And so we don't hit these numbers. Yeah, but you're going to make a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of headaches associated with this. Yep. I've been told to go to Indiana, right? We've all heard about Ohio. Everyone wants to go to Ohio. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's the right place to be.
Well, here's what I'm hearing from a lot of passive investors who are involved in syndications outside the state of Texas. One of my favorite guys, he watches this all the time. Really cool guy. He was like, Jason, they tried to take the Texas model to, let's say, New Mexico, and they're getting destroyed.
Sure.
I'm like, these lower end properties in these states that don't appreciate, it's just not worth it in the long run. They just don't. This state works very differently than everyone else does.
And we analyzed a lot of markets before we came here. This is the place to invest.
And so let's talk about. You kind of talked about macro Texas. Let's talk a little bit about micro Texas.
Mm-hmm.
What has you guys looking at the cities that you're in?
Well, let's start with the major metros. You ain't doing anything in Austin. Austin's closed. It's the San Diego of Texas.
I was just going to say, well, I really like Austin.
Everybody likes Austin. That's the problem. Everybody likes Austin, right? So great place, but you're just not going to find any rental property there. It's a total mess. And
by the way, when you say rental property, I just want to be clear for everyone. I talked to Rob a little bit about this earlier today. I said, well, hey, why aren't you guys doing like apartment buildings, or why aren't you doing multi-unit?
Yeah.
Talk to me about like just for context. When you talk about rental properties, you're really talking about the single family house up to 4 units.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. So the bigger stuff, sure, the numbers work, but right now the mortgage environment, the lending environment for multifamily is really challenging.
Very tough.
So if you're starting with a project, maybe getting some owner financing, or you're getting a hard money loan for a year while you do a rehab or some bridge finance, it might make sense. But right now it's a tough place to be in. Rents are not keeping pace with taxes and insurance and just inflation in general, which is interesting because rents are actually a component of inflation. But so the cash flow is a little bit tougher right now. And I think you've got to wait for that market to kind of shake out over the next 12 months to kind of figure out if that's something you want to do. but to go back to, where to and where not to invest, Austin's pretty much shut down. There are some great suburbs between San Antonio and North Austin, which are the hill country, but there's not enough to really build a portfolio out of. Although I got a friend of mine that does really well in Waco, but for
even after Chip and Joe have gone.
Oh,
in there
yes,
But the problem with him is he starts competing with himself, right? Because
that's true.
Yeah.
This guy's got so many units. I mean, but he's a broker there. He's
he's
been in real estate. We're about the same age. He's been in real estate since he was 18. So that's a little bit different. But if you look at Austin, it's pretty much shut down. San Antonio's still a great market.
Yeah, San Antonio's good. Yep.
Dallas is almost as bad as Austin. You ain't finding anything in Dallas. You're not going to Plano. You're not. Even Garland now which is actually where Homevestor started, was in Garland, Texas, just outside of Dallas. So there's some deals you can still do in Fort Worth, but really it comes down to Houston and San Antonio. And then the other submarkets we like, obviously, are Corpus Christi.
Sure.
And the biggest challenge in Corpus Christi is getting rehabs done. Just because there are so many contracts. If you know how to swing a hammer and pass a drug test, you're working for it. That's really
those two things.
Yeah. You know how to swing a hammer and you pass a drug test, you're making what? $50-$60 an hour with OT, working on some LNG plant, working for the new Tesla facilities getting built. I mean, you're somewhere else getting paid really well. So getting rehabs done there is tough. The next spot's the Valley, but that is so far down south. It's Mexico. It's tough. I used to do a lot of business in the Valley when I worked for another company. It's a great place to be. The tacos there are incredible, but I don't know how I wouldn't really invest down there. Partly because it's just not big enough yet. But and then Tesla's SpaceX is screwing that whole market up. Yeah. So if you're anywhere near Boca Chica, you ought to see what the price of real estate is now. So really, you've got some Fort Worth area, you've got some suburbs around Houston, and you got Corpus Christi, and you got some stuff around San Antonio. That's really it. Now, those locations are bigger than most states.
Well, I was just going to ask, when you say that, do you see a time in the next 1 to 3 years where the boundaries that you gave get smaller and smaller and smaller?
Oh, they're smaller now. Even in Houston, I was chatting with Kate. We actually pulled the numbers. We're following 300 houses right now, about 300 to 500 houses that are on the market that we're watching every single day. A year ago, it was 3 times that. So we are losing. We have lost 50% inventory just since COVID. So, and we were already coming down since 2010. So whenever I hear somebody say, well, Jason, you understand, I was around here in 2008 when the real estate crash happened. I'm like, right, but the market changed in 2010. Your typical homeowner stays in their house almost 10 years now, not 5 to 7 like it was a couple of years ago. So you just don't have the opportunity to buy houses like you used to. And that is going to continue to dwindle.
So I will tell you, though, I think the Texas investor is spoiled.
Oh, they're spoiled.
Because we're tracking 300. In LA, someone might be tracking 60.
Oh, yeah, if that.
Well, what's happening in LA, just in my neighborhood alone, is, we've got, because we are so shortage on houses, they've unlimited ADUs. Like you can, permits, just drop a trailer in there if you want, put a toilet in your garage, call it a day. But these folks are coming in and buying lots. They'll scrape the house immediately and drop up four condos immediately at $1.2 million a condo. Yeah. They'll buy the lot for $1 million.
You're not getting into any real estate ventures out there for $40,000.
No.
I met a guy. We were just, I know, random, sitting there. I just spoke at some event in Costa Mesa. We were down at Newport Beach, sitting at a bar. Guy walks in. Clearly, he's a regular. Everyone knows him. He's like, yeah, I actually eat breakfast here. He's like, kind of embarrassing. I'm here a little too much. But anyway, so we start chatting. What do you do in real estate? He's throwing up 20 doors, something like that. And he only does Orange County. So he was taking me through that whole process. You've got the air rights and how you can't change your view. And so it was really interesting to hear the story. But I'm sitting there having this conversation with this guy. I'm like, who's going to compete with him?
Right.
You guys can't come down here from Texas to go compete with the Orange County guy. He's going to run circles around you. So, or, I live in Florida.
Two guys from Seattle coming.
Yeah, I'm on Seattle. I'm going to come down here. Well, Seattle's another market.
Yeah.
You're not going up to Seattle to compete up there. I used to host events up there. Chat with my brother lived there. And
my best friend's up there. He sells multifamily. And he's like, I won't even invest in the state.
No, you can't. It's
the
impossible.
Political climate there is as whatever SoCal's landlord laws are, they're almost even worse up in
100%.
King County, Pierce County. So let me ask this, taking this half step further, one of the things that's happening in Southern California, it's happening a little bit up in Washington as well, is you've got this inventory and the hedge funds are coming in and they're taking down houses and putting portfolios together, I sort of just go, those houses will never, ever come back on the retail market again. They'll just get swapped from portfolio to portfolio. Do you see that happening down here? Does that play to your advantage, to your disadvantage? What are your thoughts?
I will tell you, it's absolutely happening. The biggest one they did was an entire neighborhood in Conroe, which is just north of here.
240 units.
And they took the entire neighborhood down. And one of the big lies that the gurus out there are saying is there's going to be this crash because all these hedge funds are going to liquidate all these houses at once. I'm like, why would they do that?
Why would they do that?
They're rented, they're cash flowing. Why would they do that?
Sure.
It doesn't make any sense.
At a 4 to 6%, and they have the equity in there. Why would they ever do it?
So let's take the numbers. Let's make the numbers even simpler. What asset can they get into that is guaranteed 10% a year appreciation that they can get really cheap leverage on? There is none. Now they've curtailed a lot of their purchases this year because of interest rates, but by and large, you're right. And this is what we're seeing. Those portfolios are getting traded. They're not selling them. They're not selling them to the retail public. So it's a huge problem down here. It's not as big as you would think it is, but it's big enough to where, millennials and Facebook groups are, complaining ad nauseum, right? Along with the Airbnb stuff. So it has an impact. If it is only in perception, it is definitely having an impact. We got them down here. They're buying all kinds of stuff.
Well, so let's just talk about three more kind of notches in this whole thing. It seems to me a lot of people came down because we got sold courses, classes, and stuff at seminars to buy Airbnbs all over the place. COVID,
you can still buy those classes.
Yeah, you can. You can just buy them on the eBay market.
There you go. Yeah, go right to eBay
for pennies.
Yes.
Seems to me like there's a lot of people that bought Airbnbs. Took out the inventory. In SoCal, the hotel industry is just raging against Airbnb.
Oh, yeah.
They've got more money than those guys. So do you see that happening down here where now people are like getting either stuck, they're underwater, they didn't get them done. Vacancies are going up, so now they're having to liquidate those. Does it add to the inventory?
So what it does, but it's not a whole lot. So what I've always said is the biggest mistake you can make in Airbnb is the big property. It's like we got 10 bedrooms and
a friend of mine up in Austin had to just tell
all
about
that.
This morning.
Like that just doesn't. It turns into the party house. It's a mess. Like it just, that's why we always preferred smaller properties. But I think the Airbnb or the short-term rental story more has to do with international vacations and COVID. A lot of people this year planned a European trip in 2020 and it got canceled. Yeah. So what did they do? They filled up our Airbnbs and Surfside. So where are they at now? They're in Japan. They're in Europe. Yeah. They're all over. They're in Australia. They're in cruise lines.
Disney World.
I'm amazed when we go on our cruise. I'm like, we're leaving on the cruise tomorrow, and we're going to walk in there. I bet it's going to be a packed boat.
Yeah.
In the middle of the school year.
Right.
I got to remember, this is October, right? We're in the middle of the school year, so we're going to walk on the boat and go, man, there's a lot of people here. So I think you're going to see. I think that's the real short-term rental story. Has it taken a bunch of inventory off the market? Probably not. A
lot of vacation homes.
Yeah, a lot of vacation homes. It's like your second homes. New Orleans, I saw a post where it was the number of Airbnbs in New Orleans. And you're like, ooh, that is a lot.
So the complaint is, where do the regular people live?
Right.
That's the complaint. It's like, hey, we've taken this whole island and turned it into Airbnb. So now where are the people that we need to clean the Airbnbs, repair the Airbnbs, paint? Where do they live? Because that housing market has just gone through the roof.
Well, that's when people are going to text Mastermind to
that's right.
281-401-9008.
281-401-9008. Text the word Mastermind so we can get started.
So, Rob, I was, I know this is going to be shocking. I was at a bar in your little neck of the woods, down south at the beach.
It's not shocking that he was at a bar.
Yeah,
he was in my neighborhood.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's the shocking part.
So I was watching the ferry traffic back and forth, right?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Chatting with the bartenders, and I said, "Where do you guys live?" And they were like, "Oh, we're all bunched up in like one house." But she said, like, an apartment here is $1,600 a month.
Yep.
Like it's for rural, middle of nowhere Texas. That's really expensive real estate. If you can find one. In fact, I was looking at a duplex down there and you couldn't even find a rental comp for the last year.
Really?
So yeah, they put a for lease sign in the yard and it's gone at $2,000 a month. So now the houses start at $500,000. So, the math doesn't really work out well unless you're doing Airbnbs. But like you'd said, I think it's that secondary home market where did these people live? No one lived there before. It was a vacation home, right? So
Well, We saw that. This is back 06, 07, 08. I was doing a lot of investing in Las Vegas, and we were talking to the casino workers, because same deal. All the people on the strip, where do they live? They had to live further out and further out and further out. So we were trying to buy stuff closer to them, because their jobs were secure at the time, and then obviously
then they weren't.
little shift in.
Got to think Vegas has gotten hammered, right? They had 2007, 2008, and they got hammered by COVID. I still don't think they're back from COVID.
Oh, they aren't.
Yeah,
I have friends that live there, and they're just like, you can still this is how it gets said. We are so dead, you can literally still drive down the strip.
Oh yeah.
And pre-COVID, like you could not.
You could not.
You just were like, we avoided it.
I was there for UFC Fight Week. We were in a Lamborghini just ripping down the strip. And I'm like, I look at the guy next to me, he goes, this is crazy. And I'm like, you should not. At any night of the week, or even during the day after about lunch, you cannot get down the strip, right? It was absolutely wild.
It's just crazy how different shifts happen. But what does seem to be kind of stable is the Texas story.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Sure. Like you don't have these huge outlier events that affect something like a Houston or down in Corpus. Do you see kind of that stable market staying over the next 10, 20 years? I know Rob said, I've been around him for the last couple of days, and I've heard him say to multiple people in multiple different contexts that the question comes up, some version of, but Rob, ... And he says, listen, here's the deal. Go back and look 10 years past. That's pretty much what's going to happen 10 years forward.
Yep.
Is that kind of your feeling as well?
Yeah. So one of the reasons Houston is not in the Case-Shiller index because it's too big. So when you look at Case-Shiller, the composite 10 or the 20.
Explain what the Case-Shiller is.
It's basically just it's a price index for housing. Whenever you hear something like cost of housing is going up, that's usually what they're referring to as the Case-Shiller index.
Whose data is that?
Well, I actually don't know how they pull the data. It's not NAR, but they're pulling pricing data
for the Fed, right?
It's reported the data is at the Federal Reserve level, but it's an index. So it's not like an absolute Case-Shiller index. I don't know what it's at, 300, 400, whatever it is. It's a ratio. It's not the median home price is $500,000. You're going to get that from NAR. So it's really a ratio they track by region. So the composite 10, I think, has got Dallas in it and San Antonio and Austin, but the 20 has just about all the major markets in Texas, including El Paso, which I thought was kind of interesting. But anyway, so Houston's so big, it would skew the data closer to what Houston is. So when you look at Houston as a whole, the appreciation seems really mild, in part because the market's so big. We have so many high-end homes, we got so many low-end homes. So you really got to break out what you're investing in. So one of the things that also allows us to do is we've got a lot of economic stability because the market's so big. It's not just oil and gas. Like everyone talks about the 80s crash in oil and gas. I'm like, the largest medical center in the world is here. It's right down the street from here. So we now have that and finance.
Massive ports. So you got a lot of transportation and logistics.
Well, I was just going to say, let's crack that open just a tiny step further. I think folks that don't live in Texas think it's oil and gas, and that's really what Texas is about.
Yeah.
But when I flew in, I saw a big advertisement for the world's largest medical center.
Yeah.
And I think, Rob, you were saying this a couple of trips down here ago, that Houston's like, I mean, I come from media and TV, and I didn't even realize this, that Houston's like fourth
largest market. Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Because you're talking LA, New York,
Chicago. That's
Dallas,
it. Houston. Yeah. It's Houston.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people consuming a lot of content.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.